Hey everybody, before starting this video I want to first announce this giveaway that we're doing in partnership with Instant Gaming. If you haven't checked it out already, you can go ahead and take your chance at winning literally any game you want. It can be Anthem, it can be Division 2 or anything else, and all you need to do is follow the link down below, sign up on instantgaming.com and then register for the giveaway. Make sure you're also subscribed to this channel and follow me and Instant Gaming on social media, and in about 2 weeks from this point we're going to announce the winners on this channel. But with that being said and done, let's move over to today's video because we have quite a lot of stuff to talk about, and it looks like there's been quite some time since we've last heard of any, noise coming out from Bioware. And by that I mean, of course, on the subject of Anthem, of updates regarding the game, which is, a game that we still play, it still exists. And despite the huge controversies around it, it still has a strong community behind it, including of course yours truly. I'm still playing it every day, I'm still doing the daily, stuff like missions and all of that, but I can't help to notice that each passing day brings even more radio silence from the company. Nonetheless, the past few days it's been rather quiet on Bioware's side, as I've said, and only yesterday did we finally get some form of acknowledgement on Twitter, but even that wasn't anything new, it was just a few mentions here and there, and definitely nothing regarding the new updates. It was mostly about some of the hotfixes that were deployed at the beginning of the week, but that was pretty much it. This obviously raised a few concerns with the core players because they are feeling now left out and afraid of Anthem getting the same treatment as Mass Effect Andromeda did when it was abandoned a few months after its failed release. And honestly, I don't blame these players on this one. Knowing EA's past of shutting down other studios for much less, it makes sense for Anthem right now to sit on some very shaky ground, and a lot of people have reasons for concerns because of this. There's not much about it, the subreddit at the very least is in direct contrast to how it was before the launch, and some users even pointed out how seemingly every other thread back then used to have a Bioware reply in it, while nowadays it's pretty much empty, devoid of any reply from the developers. Of course, the lack of communication in itself isn't the problem here. As I've said in the past, I would much rather see them shutting up, not saying anything, and bringing in meaningful content, meaningful updates with new stuff to do and look forward to, as that I believe to be what matters the most in the long run. But as a lot of people have pointed out, there's a lot of uncertainty right now with what is actually coming up in Anthem, what's the plan for the future, and I'm not talking about just this month. Even the roadmap itself, which is filled with a lot of stuff in it, with a lot of graphics and allegedly a lot of content coming up, doesn't really clarify exactly what it all means. A lot of stuff is behind Cortex entries and they are locked. A lot of the stuff can be pushed back, as even Ben Irving mentioned a couple of months back. So again, we can't really know for certain what is going to happen with the game, and this coupled with the lack of communication is what's causing a reason for concern. Other people have suggested to look at something like Division 2's weekly state of the game, and honestly I kinda tend to agree with them. I think they have a nice format over there, but honestly after watching so many of them, they look almost exactly like how Anthem does it and how the live streams the developers at Bioware did in the past few months. So the only difference over there is that it's just shorter and it's on a weekly basis, while Anthem is longer, almost 2 times longer, up to an hour, and it only happens like almost each 2 weeks. But I still stand by the suggestion I made last week, and that is of course of a big Reddit mega thread where all of the current issues that are tracked are being noted, all of the fixes that are currently worked upon are also being mentioned, and it should also be showing a time frame in which we can expect all of this stuff, along with of course the upcoming content. Now, as I was mentioning, the roadmap, it's not without fault either. So I think the biggest problem right now that people have with it is with the fact that there's a clear lack of direction. There's nothing really exciting in it that would draw people in, at the very least. Paul Tassi, for example, who has been posting news and opinion pieces on Anthem for quite some time now, did bring up a very good point, and when it comes to the roadmap and the future updates, there is not much to look forward to, at least not for the near future. Most of this month is covered by free play events, which so far have been largely unimpressive. I will admit though that the strongholds sound interesting, but that's honestly just one of them, and that is for a whole month. Not really sure how much that will keep us going. Maybe it's going to be a few days, maybe a week, maybe 2. but that is pretty much it. The mastery system, the guilds and the leaderboards are also new, but nothing to keep you going for much longer, and that is of course assuming that all of this will be put in a single big update within the next couple of weeks, which I doubt at this point. We're still not even at the half of the month, and I presume that there's going to be 2 separate big updates for all of these features, as I don't see Bioware bringing them up at the same time. This could cause way too many issues. They don't have a private test server to test out and flash out all of the issues. Division 2, by the way, has started doing that, or will start doing that from next week. I believe Anthem and Bioware should probably have something like that as well, a private test server that needs to, have community members log into, test out the new updates, the new fixes and all of that, and only after it's at least 95% fleshed out should it be brought up to the live servers. Furthermore, the Cataclysm event, which should drop in May, has very little information surrounding it. It's a free play event from what we know and from the interviews mentioned before the game went live. It's also said to be on a larger scale than Strongholds, a little closer to raids, though I don't really see how that is even possible since this is a free play event, so it's really hard, to make an assumption on how this kind of content is going to pan out. The little glimpse we had during the open demo, you can call it a teaser, you can call it whatever you want to, but the players were left largely unimpressed by it. It might have been just the execution maybe, but the fans want more than just a sky background change and an increased spawn rate of a mob that they've been already fighting for a very long time. So yeah, just having, some firestorm in the sky is all cool for like 5 minutes, and having some titans on a certain part of the map is also very cool for loot purposes. But if that is it, that's, well, not really that much, at least not worth a few months of waiting. Finally, I also want to go over some of the most used terms to describe Anthem, and that is potential. A term that I've seen being used in the past, but honestly at this point, if it's used too excessively, it can end up causing more harm than good, as it can be used as a means to justify not delivering on certain promises. As a Reddit user perfectly puts it, a game needs to be more than just potential. At some point, it has to deliver on its promises, and at this point I think Anthem needs to stop being about potential and more about the actual gameplay and the content in it. It's like saying a child has potential because he knows how to paint nice, but if too much time passes, that kid becomes an adult and then an old man, and he loses even the one thing he had going on for him, which was the potential. It's a stretch, I know, but since Ben Irving kept saying that Anthem feels like a child to him, I guess this comparison made a little bit more sense in my head. Anyway, Anthem does have at least something good going on for it. It's probably the main reason why so many people still enjoy it, and I'm seeing a lot of the comments being the same on my channel about the combat and the flight mechanics being very well made. Even recent articles like the one from yesterday coming up from Polygon praised Anthem's very refined combat and flight controls, which very few games seem to achieve. If Bioware's goal was to deliver high fidelity air combat using mech suits, they have definitely delivered on that goal. Unfortunately, unlike how the article mentions that the pluses overshadows the wrongs, I kinda have to disagree with it on that one. And it's not just my opinion here, it's actually the truth. That is why the game has been poorly received, that is why all of the ratings set it very low, and that is why there's still a lot of anger being thrown at the game and at the developers. The combat and the flight is the hook here. It's true, it's fun, and it keeps you going for a little bit, but just a little bit. The content is the one that actually pulls you in and keeps you there. Without that, eventually people will move on. Anyway, a very good point the article makes, which is the last one I'm going to mention from it, is the fact that Bioware managed to deliver a fast-paced and versatile combat experience, at least with the Interceptor, without relying too much on the loadouts. So no matter which skill you pick, which weapon you use, your Javelin will still have access to its movement sets, which themselves are tools useful in combat. If you're an Interceptor, for example, you can change the loadout, you can be more melee or range focused, but your agility and dodges still remain. Similarly with the Colossus, whichever build you go with, like a flamethrower, maybe a mortar strike, you still move like a heavy tank, carry your oversized shield, and mow down pretty much everything in your path. This is something that, for example, I can't experience in a game like Division 2, even though I'm having a ton of fun in it. In that game, even with vastly different loadouts, I still feel exactly the same as any other character I would play with. or any character that some other person would create. Of course, that game's hook is different and it picks you up by other means, gives you enjoyment in other ways, and it's clear by now that for longevity reasons, content is more important. Division 2 is probably the best example. The core gameplay is semi-decently fun, it's good, but it's nothing over the top, it's nothing, that would make you go wow, like Anthem did it, but it keeps you going because there's a ton of stuff to do in it. Anthem, at least for now, only attracts momentary sessions of fun thanks to its distinct movement and style, but otherwise fails in the long run, which is a problem in itself and needs to be addressed as soon as possible. But yeah, that's all that I have to say for now. The next week should probably be a little bit more interesting and hopefully bring us some news about the new update. Hopefully we get a ton of stuff, a lot of new stuff that hasn't been advertised before. In the meantime, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more awesome content, and I'm gonna see you guys next time, so peace out.